What's up and welcome to Ahead of the Curve. This is your host, Jonathan Gellner, and thank you so much for joining us today. This podcast is powered by Stick and Ball TV, the baseball and softball streaming platform. If you're a coach looking for resources to help you get better, then Stick and Ball is just for you. With weekly updated videos from some of the best softball and baseball coaches in the country, it's an absolute slam dunk no-brainer. Check them out at stickandball.tv or on the Stick and Ball TV mobile app. On today's show, we have on Dane Fujinaka, head baseball coach at Hawaii Pacific University. Dane comes to HPU from coaching in the Toronto Blue Jays minor league system and has so since 2019. He spent last season as the manager of the Blue Jays Dominican Summer League team, and before that, he was an assistant coach at Illinois State in 2019, where he helped the Redbirds to a Missouri Valley Co-Championship and an NCAA Tournament berth before joining the Blue Jays. He has also coached at Sacramento State, William Jessup, and Menlo College. As a player, the new Sharks skipper was an Academic All-WAC performer as a catcher at Sacramento State, where he started 135 games for the Hornets. He finished his collegiate baseball playing career at Menlo, where he started all 54 games. So on the show, we discuss a whirlwind of a fall for Dane. We talk about his first 100 days on the job, and we dive deep into the everyday look of what they're doing to build a culture right now. You're going to love this episode with Dane Fujinaka. Dane, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah. I guess I should have said aloha.
Yep. Aloha means
cool,
hello, means I love you, means everything in Hawaii.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. And so I say that knowing that, you just got the job at Hawaii Pacific a little while ago. And so it's really, really excited to get to hear what, you're in the midst of it right now. And so I'm really excited to just kind of see the ground floor of the foundation that you're laying. And so walk us through a little bit about, your transition, because it's like you've been on the job for less than 100 days. And so tell us a little bit about, previously you were in the Dominican as a manager, which is another really cool experience. And then you got this job, and then it's like, okay, now what do we do? So just kind of walk us through that process a little bit. You can talk about hit on the interview process or any direction that you want to go, but I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So, oh man, I'll take you back to, I was in the Dominican, managing our Dominican Summer League for the Toronto Blue Jays. And that was my second year doing that. 2020 being, we didn't have a season. So this was my first year managing, and we were doing well. We were in second place. I was loving it up in the Dominican, and one of my like goals in life when I started my career was to become a head coach, a head college baseball coach. And I'd written a goal down at the beginning of the year saying that, I wanted to interview for one college head coaching job by the end of the year. So we're about midway through the season. It's June, and obviously that's kind of when the coaching carousel goes around. And I come to find out the previous head coach, Dallas Correa, had left to take a position at the University of Hawaii, and this position opened. So I immediately texted him and asked kind of what the scoop was. And then he told me that there's a new athletic director and to contact her. So I emailed her, and I think she had been on the job for about a week. She emailed me back within 5 minutes saying that, they're going to interview me. I didn't hear I applied online and everything, and I didn't hear from them for about a month. So I kind of thought at that point, I didn't get it, or they had moved on, but I kept asking around to see, if anyone got the job, and no, they hadn't hired anyone yet. And it was probably right around August 1st. And I think it might've been like around the first week of August. And they finally got back to me saying that they wanted to interview me. And again, we're middle of our season and we're doing well. We're in second place, a few games behind first place. And And so I went through the interview process, and it was weird because in the Dominican, the Wi-Fi is not as good as you can imagine, and the electricity is not as good. So the power kept going in and out of my apartment, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be in this interview, and I'm gonna lose Wi-Fi, and that's gonna be it. So
Oh man.
I was stressing a little bit on that, but thankfully we got through it, and I didn't hear from them for another week. So at that point, I was really anxious, and obviously wanting to know what was going on. And I'd kind of heard that who the other applicants were, and I had learned that I had a pretty good shot of getting it. So at that point, it was I had to communicate that to the Blue Jays, obviously, and super appreciative of the way they took care of me and the last couple of years, and they allowed me to interview and whatnot. So
Well, that's
another
great.
week goes by, and I get another call saying I'm a finalist, and then another week goes by, and saying that I got it. So it was a bit of a process, and by the time I got the job, by the time I knew I got the job, was about mid-September. And the kids had already been in class for over a month. And then I get home to Hawaii. I ended up leaving our Dominican Summer League team a week and a half before the season ended, which was a bummer because they actually ended up winning the entire Dominican Summer League, which I was super pumped about. But bummed
That's
I couldn't
great.
be there at the same time.
Sure.
But got home and started on September 23rd. Was my first day, and by then we were 2 months into school, and we had started fall ball the very next week, and it went really fast, man. It flew by, and now we're done with the fall, so it feels like
That's
it just
crazy.
started yesterday.
Man.
Yeah.
So are you from Hawaii? Is that where you grew up?
Yep. So born
Okay.
and
Perfect.
raised in Hawaii. Played little league and high school ball over here at Mid Pac, and went to go play college ball at Sacramento State for 4 years
Hmm.
under Reggie Christensen.
Sure.
And then I moved over to Menlo College my last year to play under Jake McKinley, who's
Oh yeah, I love
now,
Jake. Yeah, he's great.
yeah. So he's doing well with the Brewers. He's pretty high up there now, and
Hmm.
kind of followed his coaching path the last few
Oh,
years.
that's cool.
Yeah,
I read that on your bio, and I was like, oh, that's like two former guests of the show, Jake and
yeah,
Reggie.
yeah.
So you obviously learned under two of the best, and it's just I'm sure it's been a whirlwind because you're moving from the Dominican, and then you're back in Hawaii, and time changes, and kids are already in school, and so I'd love to hear like what did that first meeting look like because they already signed, like they're already there, they're already going through school, and they haven't gotten to know you yet. So like how is it planning for that and then just slowly building that relationship and that system of trust that you're continuing to build now, but what was that first meeting like?
Sure. Yeah. No, that first meeting. So I mean, like I said, it was 2 months into school, and they had gone without a head coach the entire summer and starting school. So my first question was, is there still a team? And um, the three previous assistants that stayed on the staff, Jordan Kurokawa, Brian Zablan, and Carlos Ramirez, did a really good job keeping those guys together, and let them know that hey, we're gonna get a head coach and he's gonna come on soon. So that first meeting was huge. I mean, we got everybody together and in person so they could finally meet me and the rest of the staff. And we just kind of talked about, some of the things that they wanted to keep in the program and some of the things that they wanted to improve and what they're looking for in their experience in the next few years of their career here at HPU. But what I did actually before the meeting was have them fill out a survey on Google Forms or whatever, and
Mhm.
I just asked a few questions of what's a couple of things that you enjoyed the last few years at HPU.
Cool.
What are you looking forward to the next few years? What are some of your strengths, some of the things you're wanting to work on, and so forth. And a lot of them had very similar answers, and I was pretty shocked to learn that the culture of the team was actually really strong, and that I didn't think I needed to do much work as far as um, bringing in a brotherhood or a family type environment. And when I asked them, what's one of the things that went really well the last few years. 95% of them said that, they enjoyed the brotherhood and the family culture that they had created.
I love it.
So in our first meeting, that was one thing that I addressed and made sure to tell them that, we're going to do everything we can to protect that. Because that obviously was a strength of the team the last few years. And then the second thing, when I asked, what they're all looking for the next few years, 95% of them said that they wanted to win, which I think is it might seem common, but I've been at a few programs now, and it's not as common as I think you might think. Being, you're getting a bunch of individuals coming from different programs, that want to play, and they want, they have their individual goals as well, which is great. But I was pretty shocked to see that, as a collective group, they all, really wanted to win over anything. So I knew we were in a pretty good spot from a culture standpoint. And going into that meeting, it was just addressing those things and, letting them know that, light went out. Letting them know that, we're going to do everything we can to achieve those things and protect it. So.
I love it. And, that's interesting that you say that. So they wanted to win. Had they not previously had the experience of winning very much?
Yeah, the last 4 years have been tough. I mean, obviously with COVID and whatnot too, it's, they didn't get off the island last year. Hawaii shut down completely, so they didn't even get to practice. Wow. I think they went into the first game of the season against the University of Hawaii not having practiced at all. So it's been a pretty tough last few years for them, for everybody. But I mean, the last 3 or 4 years they haven't done very well in the conference. So I think they're all looking for a winning experience for sure.
No doubt. And I love that, you coming from a winning background and the stops that you've made, and then, coming from a professional program who's had that experience as well. And so it's really neat. I'm sure they were really excited to see you heading up the program. And so you're only a couple years older than some of these guys too. And so I'm sure that brings a new energy. And then these guys are like, okay, like you just came out of pro ball, which is, the cutting edge of really and the highest level. And so I'd like to see, or I'd like to hear kind of your process of developing culture. You talked about, that first meeting and those relationships. How have you started to add layers of that as you've gone along this fall?
Yeah. To be honest, I think it just starts with getting their trust. And I was talking with Jake, Jake McKinley, who's, my mentor and one of my best friends. I always spitball with him. And one of the things he had mentioned, because I asked him, what it was like when he took over Menlo College. And he just told me, hey, make sure, you're getting their trust first. And then, just organically the culture will happen just because that's the kind of guy you are. And, you don't really have to force it. They're kind of going to watch how you go about your business and how your staff goes about their business. So, it's just about, making them understand, the values that you want to bring and they're going to watch, how you go about that. But I mean, really it was just telling them, hey, we're going to, treat each other right. We're going to, play hard. We're going to run hard. And then, it was just more of a conversation versus me, telling them how it's going to be. It was more, hey, this is what you guys said to me and, before our meeting. And, this is how I think we're going to go about it and how we can get there. So it was more of a conversation more than anything. And I think that really helped buy in. And I definitely used a lot of the older guys as well to kind of lead that and help the younger guys who they kind of had no idea what was going on. So.
Sure. No, that's really good. And I love that in your questionnaire, you talked to them about this. Did you ask them about the standards that they wanted? And I know you mentioned the experience, but I love that you turned it around and said, hey, this is what you guys wanted. Like you said, you wanted to win, and you said you wanted to have a brotherhood and a great baseball experience. And so it's not just your vision, it's theirs that you're helping to hold them accountable to. I love that.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, I mean, it was like you said, I mean, they kind of answered it themselves. And I think it's great always when it comes from, the player. It's one thing when, the coaches are telling them to do something, but, when it comes from the players and they're the ones coming up with it, they're going to take more accountability and pride into it and hold each other accountable to it because at the end of the day, that I told them on day one too that it's their program and it's their experience. It's we're here for them, so they're going to get whatever they put into it. Yeah.
I love it. So tell us about are you again, I've never experienced taking over a program, so I envision, okay, I've got these standards, which you've mentioned a couple of them. I've got these rules, and then different ways to try and uphold them and build a culture that way. And so I'd love to hear like your system of how did you do something similar to that? Because again, I'm just spitballing here because I've never been a head coach before.
Yeah. So one of the things we did in the beginning of the fall was just, I gave them a contract, and a lot of it was just, basic rules that, pretty much any college baseball team has to follow. And one of them was a GPA standard. Obviously, not getting arrested and following the law is one thing. Sure. And making sure we're on time, making sure we're respecting other people, not only our teammates, but everybody. So I had a contract that I had them sign. But that was one way I was, going to make sure that we're able to hold them accountable. And then, the second thing was, when guys mess up, it's holding them accountable. That's the tough part, especially I think as a first year coach where, I obviously want all of our guys to like me. And I think I'd be lying if I said I didn't care if they like me, but I do. And I have great relationships with all of them. But a lot of times it comes with holding them accountable. So there are a couple of times when guys showed up late, and some of our better players showed up late where, I sent them home. I, told them try again tomorrow, and they all understood. We actually had one guy, say it wasn't, working out for him, and that's totally fine if, guys don't want to abide by the team standards. And, I said day one that I was going to protect that culture. So, I made sure I did. And yeah, I mean, it just goes to holding them accountable. Once you hold a couple guys accountable day one, it kind of plays itself out. And it's not like I was mad at them or blew them up or yelled at them embarrassed them in front of the whole team. It was a conversation where I said, hey man, like you're late, and it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not mad at you. It's just, that's just how it is. So just don't be late. And, for the most part, they understood, and never happened again. So
cool.
I think the biggest thing is, when you set standards and rules, you have to hold them accountable. And, for the most part, they're gonna, respect you for that. I think when they start to lose respect is when you set rules and don't follow through on them.
No doubt. And you've talked about several of them already. And so you're making the one, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but it sounds like you have a few that you're sticking to. You don't have a ton. And so that clarity piece too is, hey, this is what winners do. You said you wanted to be a winner, and we're clearly outlining what we expect here. And you didn't come through with that. So try again tomorrow is basically the conversation. Like, You're not getting mad. You're not yet, it's just, but hey, here's what you said you were going to do. You didn't do it. Try again tomorrow. Like I really like
it's super simple. Yeah. I mean, it's I mean, it was, the two rules in the contract was, one, be on time, and two, be a good teammate, and everything falls under be a good teammate. So, I mean, it just takes one or two times to tell them to kick them out of practice and take away the thing that, they love, and it never happens again. So,
I really like that. So tell us about the fall that you guys did have. I know you arrived late, but I'm honestly, I'm not real familiar with the college setting of how much time you have in a fall and how much team time you have or individual time. And I'm not sure how you broke it up. I know you've got beautiful weather every single day, basically all year, which is a huge advantage as well. But just tell us a little bit about how you decided to break it up, when you decided to do what, and walk us through it if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, oh man, like I said, I got hired on September 23rd, and we started fall ball on October 1st. And in NCAA, college baseball, you have 45 days to practice as a team. So, we kind of hit the ground running. the first couple weeks was just, making sure that they're in shape and kind of learning about them and what, they like to do and what they don't like to do, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. So the first couple of weeks was just kind of evaluating and starting to build that relationship on the baseball field. Week 3 and on, we started the inter squad. And the way it would work was we practice Tuesday, Thursday, and then inter squad Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then their off days, which you need 2 off days in the fall. They were Monday, Wednesday for them to get their classes in and whatnot.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of how the fall went. And then the last half of the fall, we actually made an adjustment to the what was that, Tuesday, Thursday practices, where instead of having like a traditional practice, it was more individual based, where our infield coach would take the infielders, outfield coach take the outfielders, and so forth. And then that way they can, have a little bit more time to get a lift in during those days. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday was kind of the team practice where, we're going to get after it and then play an inter squad as well.
Oh, really good. And you're still like getting to know all of these guys too. So I'm sure that first couple of weeks you were just trying to figure out, okay, who can do what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, before, you diving in. And I'm sure you don't miss an opportunity to coach, but just trying to, figure out who can play. That's a unique experience that I have never, I guess I have experienced that, but not as from a head coaching standpoint, especially.
Sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really didn't know a whole ton of the players when I first got there. I'd known a handful just because I'd recruited some of them when I was coaching in college. And being from Hawaii, I was still pretty tied into Hawaii baseball. So I knew some of the local guys, but man, it was pretty new. And I remember telling the assistant coaches that, I didn't think this guy was very good, and the other guy, is lacking some bat speed or whatever. And then game 1 of the inter squad, completely just, not what you expect. And it's so funny. That's just how this game works. It's so hard to evaluate and predict what's, who's going to be good and who's not until you roll the balls out. And I think it was great for us to see that. And I'm glad that, I kind of took a step back the first couple of weeks and just more evaluated more than anything, just because of that. For that reason is, you don't want to feel like you're changing somebody before you even see them play. And I don't think the player appreciates that either, especially when they're trying to, show what they got in front of a new coaching staff. And then, we change them without seeing them. And then, they kind of, that's when I think you lose some buy-in. But I think the first couple of weeks, being that we kind of just, start talking to them, feeling them out, seeing where they come from, and then watch them play the first week in inter squads, that allowed to kind of and how we kind of move forward with the philosophies we want to teach and how we're gonna coach, really. So
sure. No, I love that. And I think, seeing guys play is probably the best evaluation system that you've got. And so it's, I love like scrimmages. You can tell so much. I know they say repetition is the mother of learning. And I'm like, man, but like getting to see them in a game, it's a completely different setting. So you can see who guys, who, like, even that you mentioned lacking bat speed, you're like, oh, this dude can play. Like, what am I even talking about here? I think that's really good.
Yeah, no, I should have got fired after week 3 when there was like 3 guys, man, like couldn't hit the ball out of the cage in VP, and they ended up leading our team in hits in the fall. I was like,
so good.
You just never know.
Yeah, no doubt. When the lights turn on, it's great. So no, that's cool. But no, I want to talk a little bit about this. This is a question that I was just thinking about too. It's okay. So you guys are all the way like away from everybody on the mainland. How hard is that transition for them? And I know you just got there, but I'm just thinking, man, that's got to be really tough to be a baseball player in Hawaii and then playing other teams in the mainland with school, with sleep, with the travel. And like, I would love to hear what do you plan on doing to kind of navigate that? I know you're a Hawaii native, but I'm just like, it just blows my mind that it's that far of a travel, because I think a couple of hours is a long time. But I would love to hear just like the process of, and your plan of being able to navigate that.
Yeah, no, that's a really big, not issue, I wouldn't say issue, but thing that we have to, overcome and deal with here being from
Sure.
Hawaii. So we go on 2 road trips this year, two to Southern California, which is a 5, 6 hour flight. So it's not terrible. But this year how we're doing it is we're actually taking a red eye. And hopefully we guys get some sleep on the plane, and
Sure.
we'll be able to practice the next day, get a full
Hmm.
night rest, and then come out and play a series. So to answer your question, I mean, I think it's just the attitude and what you're preaching as a coaching staff. Because
Hmm.
I tell our guys, if you're there's a couple ways you can look at it. You can use it to your advantage, because those California teams also have to come down here and play, and we
That's
can
true.
either be on the side of making it as an excuse, and or we can use it to our advantage and get used to it, because that's what other teams are going to have to do when they come down here as well. So I think I think it's just um, trying to make the best out of the situation and preparing your mind and your body as best as you possibly can, and then having the right mindset. When you actually are going through it, I think makes
Mhm.
a big difference in being able to overcome that barrier, I guess.
Sure. So one of the that's really good. It's really interesting, and I really like that. It's almost like a, hey, we're going to be tougher than those guys are, because we
Right.
have to do the same thing. But this is what we signed up for. We like this. Like this is
Yeah.
our advantage. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, and like you said, the benefit of living in Hawaii is you don't have to worry about the weather for the most
Hmm.
part. I mean, we got rain, but luckily our practice field is in a spot of the island where it just never seems to rain. So now I say that it's going to rain all spring, but I mean, we didn't have one rain out this fall, and we got to play outside where a lot of schools don't. The Northern California schools are playing in 35, 40 degree weather in
Hmm.
January, where we're practicing and it's 75, 80 degrees. So
Wow. Yeah.
there's definitely there are pros and cons of everywhere you go. But I think like I said, the mindset and the way you look at things is ultimately what is going to create your outlook.
Sure, no doubt. So with that, I'm curious. I know that you seem to ask for a lot of feedback from the players. I mean, it's been pretty evident, and I really like that about you, Dane. And I think
Mhm.
that you, just from that aspect, would be a really cool guy to play for. Like I want a coach who, hey, who is in it for us, number one, but also wants for us to have the best experience, but hold us to a high standard. I think that's really good. But I'm curious, what are some of the different things that you have done that the players have been like, "Oh, I really like this." Like, maybe they didn't do it in the past, or maybe it's something that they
Yeah.
came to you and they said, "Hey, we really like doing this drill or this type of scrimmage, or we really like doing X, Y, or Z, or however that may be." But has that instance come up at all?
Yeah, I think a few times. The one thing that comes to mind is they really like the way we practice, and I'm a huge defense guy. I'm a
Okay.
huge I've come from other programs where we were top in the country, and the Sac State was always really good defensive team, and I
Mm-hmm.
took a lot of things away from them and Reggie. So I think coming in and telling our guys like, hey, we're going to be a defense first team, and we're going to prioritize that. I think they really liked, and it's something a little bit more controllable, I think, than the offensive part, which we actually had a really good fall offensively. We crushed the ball this fall, which um, I think was to them buying into like a team approach, which is another thing that they I think really enjoyed is
Mm-hmm.
um, having something to collectively come together as an offense to create that culture. I think is super important, and they seem to really bought into that. And but yeah, I think they just really enjoyed the practices. I collectively, guys would come up to me and tell me how much you're enjoying practice and how they want to come out to the field. And
Oh, that's awesome.
that's something that, I take a lot of pride in when planning practice and creating the drills, is making sure that they're they're having fun, man, because I think, and making sure it's competitive, because I think that's where you get the most development is, when they're actually enjoying it and are bought in to what you're doing. So I would say that's the biggest thing. I wouldn't say that that's something I change. It's just something that, I take pride in planning and organizing practice, is making sure that, they're getting the most out of it, and there's no really wasted time, because we can't waste time. We started late. We're already behind the eight ball, and making sure we're just getting the most out of every day. I think they appreciated that for sure this fall.
Oh, that's really good. I think this goes without saying sometimes, but if you're enjoying what you're doing every single day, it's going to be a much better experience, but you're going to get better just because you want to be there, instead of like fighting it every single day and stressed about it. And you talked about competition, but competition can be fun. Like it's not one of those things that you want to shy away from. And you even mentioned toughness a couple of times. And I envision, if I ever took over a program, like that would be number one. I want to provide an environment where they want to show up every single day. And it sounds like you're doing that, which is a really cool, and just, psychologically speaking, is a really big deal.
Yeah, no, just making sure that they are having a good time and enjoying their overall experience here at HPU is huge, because when we bring recruits on, especially, it's they're the ones that are going to be selling the program. I tell all of our recruits to make sure they talk to the players that are on the team, because ultimately that's the experience that they're going to get. So yeah, I mean, I think we treat our guys really good, and making sure that they're enjoying their time here. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of feedback for sure, asking them, hey, what you liked, what you didn't like this fall, what you think wasn't beneficial. And obviously there are times where we need to explain the things that we're doing, and when guys say they didn't like something, because we obviously have a reason for everything we do. But it's always good to have those conversations, because that's what creates the buy-in, is not just telling them to do something, but making sure they understand what they're doing. So I think a good example of that is the weight room. Oh, that's, I guess, another thing that we brought in that they really enjoyed was the weight room aspect of things. We lifted as a team, I think, more than they have in the past, and we were able to get a lot of weight equipment donated. So we got after it in the weight room this fall, which they really like. So that's another thing where I think that change was really good for them. So
I love it. So with that, I mean, what, you mentioned that one of the things that you're really passionate about is defense. And so I would love to be able to steal something on the defensive side from you, whether that's, a team set, or, like how you're coaching it, cues, whatever. I don't think I have enough defensive guys on. It's usually pitching, hitting guys and head coaches, but
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, what you like to do during practice that you think is beneficial.
Yeah. So I think one of the big things we did this fall is just making like every rep, like holding them accountable for every rep. So what I noticed in the first couple of weeks was guys were having taking a lot of reps, but none of it to me really translated into a game type environment where there's pressure and the game's moving fast. So I think the biggest thing we did in the fall was just making sure they're accountable for every rep. So doing drills like 27 outs was something we do a ton at Sac State. I remember it's just a way to put pressure on guys and put them in an environment where there's a consequence and there's a reward for every rep or mistake that they make. So I think a lot of times you're going to see guys go up and down in those type of environments. But my message to them was like, look, like you guys were taking reps without any pressure. It was kind of mindless. There was no focus. And those reps, like, we can't use those reps in the game.
Sure.
Now you're struggling when we put some pressure on you. Like, you have to understand that those are the type of reps that we need from you guys from here on out. And, I think they started to understand the process of that, and how, maybe, the results weren't as good as the previous environment, but, the environment is everything. So I
Mm-hmm.
think for us as a coaching staff, our main goal was to, just raise the level of focus by adding in some competition, by
Sure.
adding in some pressure during practice. And we still got the repetitions on the Tuesday, Thursday individual type practices, but
Mhm.
when it came time to team defense type stuff, we were going to do less, but with more intent and focus. So I would say that was the biggest thing. And then two, just emphasizing it and making it important, because I think as a young player, you're taught to hit, and you're taught to, that your bat gets you in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really put a ton of emphasis on the defense. And, I think when you do, I told all of our guys at the end of the fall that, we're going to play the best, the best guys that give us the best chance on the defensive side. And instantly you see them taking extra ground balls. You see them, getting with the infield coach more versus going into the cage and doing flips. So I think it's just valuing that and telling them and making it important. I think is the biggest thing, because you'll be shocked of what your guys can do when you give them the expectations and what you're looking for them. They'll get it done. They'll find a way.
Oh, really good. I like that. With that, I want to go back and let's talk about because I should have mentioned this earlier, and I think that this is a really cool topic too. But what was it like getting to know the coaching staff? We talked about the players. Did you know them at all? And then, I mean, they did a lot of work for the program before you even showed up, keeping those guys together. You mentioned that, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'll forever be indebted to them for that. But tell us how you got to know them and how you guys started to gel as a group, because I think I've never been part of that dynamic, and I think that would be an interesting one as well.
Sure. Yeah. So when I got the job, Carlos Ramirez, he was a catching coach. Brian Zablon was the outfield coach, and then Jordan Kurokawa was the pitching coach last year. And I knew all three of them personally. Brian Zablon, our outfield coach, I played for growing up in Hawaii. He was help coach my travel ball team that would go up to Arizona. So I'd known him. Um, and great guy. It was one of the best teammates that I've been around. Just willing to do anything for the team, and
Mm-hmm.
super humble and just a great mentor for our guys. He's kind of like a father figure, in that, so to speak. And Carlos Ramirez is a catching guy, and he's just like a diehard HPU guy. And I've known him for a few years since I've gotten to coaching. I'd see him at showcases, and he's down to Hawaii every year. And when I heard he got on the staff here at HPU, I was super pumped for him. But he's our catching guy, and his son is the bullpen catcher for the Tampa Bay Rays. And Carlos himself played pro ball as well, so he comes with
That's
a ton
awesome.
of knowledge and experience. So we're super fortunate to be able to keep him. And then the last guy, Jordan Kurokawa, I think last year was his first year coaching. But he previously played for University of Hawaii Hilo, which is in our conference. But he's probably one of the best pitchers to come out of that program. He threw a complete game shutout to beat the University of Hawaii, which was his big I guess outing of his career that kind of got him on the map, and he ended up getting drafted by the Phillies. And his ability to relate to guys, and being that he's my age, so he's younger, and
Oh, that's cool.
um, he's able to just really bond with them on a personal level as well. So those three guys were already on staff, and it was no brainer for me to make sure that they stay on staff. And huge reason why our players are still here and stuck through the summer. So I knew I had two positions I wanted to fill on the field, and one was another pitching coach. So Ashkan Kuhalua was a guy that I actually played with at Menlo. NEIA led the NEIA in strikeouts. He's a legend. If you search Ashcon NEIA, he's an absolute legend. But he runs a pitching academy, or ran a pitching academy here in Hawaii, where he worked with the top pitchers that are commits to big D1 schools and a lot of the pro guys. His ability to develop guys to throw harder and to have better stuff and just their overall development as pitchers, he was a no-brainer. And he's one of the best competitors that I've actually been around too. So to be able to create that culture for our pitchers, I think is huge, because I think in the past they lacked that a little bit. And a lot of times pitching staffs lack that. A lot of times you'll see the hitting culture, you'll see the defense culture, but I think it's super important to create a pitching culture as well. And Ash is one of the best guys I've been around that's going to be able to do that. So we're super fortunate to have him. And the last guy is Rayson Romero, who's our infield guy. We absolutely hit the jackpot with Rayson. He played at Sonoma State, played indie ball for a little bit up there, and then was coaching in Florida at Inspiration Academy for a year, and now he's back home and running our infield. So he's extremely talented, and his attention to detail is outstanding, and our infielders have seen like extreme gains from him. And then our last guy that we have on staff is Creighton Ceruta Gaspar. He's our weightlifting and strength and conditioning coach. So for us to be able to have a guy specifically for that is huge. I mean, not a ton of programs at our level, at any level in college baseball, have their own strength guy. So he's obviously a huge resource for us, being that we value the strength and conditioning in the weight room. So there's 7 of us, which is a solid staff for a Division II program, or any college program for that matter. And I'm super fortunate to have guys at every position and in the weight room. So I mean, I couldn't say more good things about our guys.
I love that. Well, for our guests to get to know you a little bit better, and I know that we talked about playing for some extremely good for some really good coaches in Jake McKinley and Reggie Christensen and guys that really know the game. But I want to know, like, what's the latest thing? Because I'm sure your head is spinning this fall. I can only imagine. But what? Because I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but I'm imagining myself in the same position. And this question makes me laugh. Of what's the latest thing that you've learned? And I'm thinking, man, if I was in your spot, it would be like, what's the latest thing I've learned in this last hour? Right. But
right.
That's good. But what's something that's really stood out this fall? So I'll change the question for you. What's something that's really stood out this fall that you didn't know before, or that you've been like, okay, like I had this idea going in and now I've changed my mind about it, being the head coach of this program?
Sure. So I think I'd mentioned this before, but we had switched our practice kind of a little bit from the first half to the second half of the fall. The first half, we're doing a lot of team stuff, where we would take traditional BP, we'd have live reads, we do like 20 minutes of individual defense, and that was kind of our 2-hour block of practice. But as we kind of went through the fall, I as a staff, we kind of just came to the conclusion that we needed a little bit more individual time with each guy. And we could do that by kind of breaking it up throughout the day versus coming in together as a team and having a 2-hour team practice. So I think that was probably one of the bigger changes we had this fall, was just like changing the way, or the what am I looking for? The organization, or the way that the way we practice. So it was more individual towards the second half of the fall on the Tuesday, Thursday, versus in the beginning it was more of a team type environment. And I think that really helped. One, the level of practice and the instruction, I think, was a lot better. And then second, what that did was I think created a little bit more confidence with our guys, and they got to get specific work for them with their coach on an individual basis versus having to feel like they're playing a game almost every day. I think
Yeah.
it was good for them to step away from that and get those individual high focus, deep practice times with their coach. So that's probably the biggest thing that I learned was because I'm a big team practice guy. I'm a big I want practice to look good and make sure it's running efficiently and step away from that and kind of go, hey, just do what you need to do to get better and get with your coach. Like, that was probably the biggest thing that I had to realize was, hey, maybe sometimes the best thing is to get an hour block to where, you're just one-on-one with the guy. And then,
Sure.
it might not look pretty, but on a practice schedule, but it's the best thing for their development. So I'd say
I think
that stood out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that speaks to your humility too. You had an idea of something and then you realized, okay, this might not be the best for this group. And next year it may be completely different. I think that's awesome. Yeah,
no, for sure. At the end of the day, we're just looking to get these guys as good as possibly can be. So anything that helps them is good. But no, and the other thing I learned is just, what it's like to be a head coach at the college level. I mean, I was a manager in the Dominican Summer League, but
sure.
I mean, in pro baseball, you're worrying about literally just the development of the player. Whereas, here I remember, Gil Kim, who's my other mentor, he's in the big leagues for years now. But he was like, hey man, you're gonna have to be the GM, the scouting director, the farm director. You're gonna have to be the budget guy who deals with all the budgets. And
sure.
So yeah, he was right. And I think the biggest thing I learned from that was just delegating and giving my assistants more responsibility, whether they want it or not. It's good for their development. It's good for me, and it's good for the entire team to be able to split those responsibilities up, and just so otherwise I go crazy. So
no doubt.
I have good assistants that like the work. So.
Oh, for sure. Well, and it's for those not familiar with Dominican Summer League, that's not an easy thing to manage either, because you might have 100 players, and I mean there's a language barrier there, and I mean so I'm sure that helped prepare you for this step. I undoubtedly think that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I talked to my direct boss, who's my field coordinator with the Blue Jays, John Tamargo. But his big thing with me was, hey, I gotta do better delegating. I do, be a little bit more patient. So, if it wasn't for him, I'd probably be losing my mind right now. But the biggest thing I learned with the Blue Jays was just managing people and managing a staff and making sure that I'm doing what I can to allow each assistant coach to do their job. I think was the biggest thing I learned with the Blue Jays, because there's so many departments that create the team and the overall. There's a pitching coach, but the pitching coach has a pitching coordinator that he's got to go to. There's a hitting coach, and the hitting coach got to go to the hitting coordinator. So there's so many different parts of that puzzle. And as a manager, being able to allow them to do their job, I think was the biggest thing that I learned.
Sure. No, I love that. And I love the experience. You're obviously self-reflective, which I think is really cool. And I would love to hear. So are you much of a reader?
Yeah. No, I definitely read podcasts. I love podcasts.
Sure. What are some of your favorites? So if you could buy a book for any of our listeners, what would it be? And then some of your favorite things to listen to.
Yeah. So I think 3 books come to mind for just development purposes, like baseball development. I think Top Dog was really good. That talked a lot about, the science of competition and how that relates to, developing players. And culture-wise, I like the Culture Code. That was a good one. And then the third one was the Talent Code. That was, I guess that's more for developing too, and kind of the science behind that. So I would definitely recommend those 3 books for anyone looking to get into coaching or looking for a new read.
I guess there's another one too that's more just personal development stuff, but I've related it to a lot of the skills you need in being a head coach or a coach in general is how to influence people, was it making friends and how to influence people. You guys probably know what I'm talking
Carnegie?
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a good one.
That's a great book. It's 100 years old almost, I think.
Yeah, no, but shoot, man, whoever wrote that was super smart.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I like that one too. That's probably on my top 5 list. But anyways, Dan, man, I appreciate your time, and we are the day before Thanksgiving, and so I appreciate you cutting out some time to share with us today. What's a Hawaii Thanksgiving look like? I'm curious.
Oh, I mean, we're spending our Thanksgiving. My parents have a house right on the beach, so we're going there, spend the day at the beach.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Yep, you guys are all invited.
But
yeah, there's some good surf, so I'm probably gonna get a surf in and eat a bunch of different foods. We got a potluck style, so
nice.
A bunch of people.
What's on the table? Is it you guys? Do you do
question.
turkey?
I mean, we do turkey. So my dad deep fries a turkey every year. But we eat poke, which is raw fish. A lot of just local Hawaiian food. I wouldn't say it's too traditional. Turkey stuffing. Mashed potatoes. That's not. We have that, but we also have our also our local Hawaii food too. So
no, I love that. That's a cool mix. But
yeah.
Dane, man, I appreciate your time. I wish you nothing but the best of luck. And I just, speaking with you for the next hour, it's going to be no secret that you're going to have success there. And I'm sure your players and coaches love being with you. You're a humble guy. And so I appreciate it. I am really excited to get to talk with you more with a newfounded friendship. But here's your chance to talk to our listeners. And anything that we covered or anything that you'd like to leave with them before you go.
Yeah, no, first off, I mean, appreciate you having me on here, Jonathan. This is actually my first time doing something like this. So,
love it. You killed it, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, no, appreciate you and allowing me to be on here. But no, I mean, I guess for whoever's listening, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and set goals. I think the biggest thing for me, at least within the last year, was just setting goals, and you'd be surprised kind of how your life organizes itself around those goals once you have them in front of yourself and written down where you're looking at them every day. So that's probably the biggest thing I would recommend. And two, it's tough, man. Like, it ain't easy, and it takes a ton of hard work and a sacrifice, but that's why we do it, and the reward is so great, and being able to be on the baseball field coaching young men and seeing them graduate and go off to build families and careers is it's why we're doing it, and it makes all the sacrifice and hard work worth it. But those would be my 2 advice is write down your goals and don't be afraid to work hard. So
thank you for listening to Ahead of the Curve. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review wherever you are listening. I also wanted to remind you that you can find the video portion at the AOTC channel on stickandball.tv. Have a great week.